Here's Brody Brazil.
It's been a while since baseball announced its relocation committee for the Oakland A's and a potential move to Las Vegas. But now that we're getting closer to this potential vote, more questions are being asked about who are the members of this committee, what is actually their role, and why specifically were they chosen? Is anything really by accident anymore in 2023? Sometimes it helps to put some faces with the names. You're aware of Mark Attanasio, John Sherman, and John Middleton from the Brewers, Royals, and Phillies specifically, but here they are. This is the relocation committee assigned by Commissioner Manfred that is going to really go deeper into the A's relocation application than anybody else. They'll make a recommendation to the commissioner, to his staff, and then ultimately all of the other owners across baseball. Now, it's just a recommendation. We recommend you vote blank on this because here's why. I would imagine that there's some kind of final report. There's some reasonings. It's more than just vote yes, vote no. But there's Attanasio, Sherman, and Middleton. And you are correct in acknowledging that, wait, didn't the A's play in Kansas City? Didn't the A's play in Philadelphia? Yeah, that is kind of weird, isn't it? But that's actually not the connection that people are making most in this. It's not the two A's former host cities. It's more about Mark Attanasio. And that's where we'll kind of take this video and a report from 1130 WISN Radio in Milwaukee. The Dan O'Donnell Show coming out with this exclusive report saying it's not an accident that the Brewers owner, Attanasio, is leading the A's relocation committee. In fact, Mark Attanasio is the head of this A's relocation committee. Multiple sources confirmed to the Dan O'Donnell Show that it's, quote, not an accident that Major League Baseball asked Milwaukee Brewers owner Mark Attanasio to head the committee tasked with relocating the Oakland A's to Las Vegas amid uncertainty surrounding American Family Field financing. Okay, we should explain here. American Family Field, home of the Brewers for about 20 years now. They've just recently revealed, the Brewers have, that the stadium needs hundreds of millions of dollars in upkeep and maintenance and modernization and improvements, and they'll be asking for the public's help for a majority of that money. And initially, I thought it was about $500 million. Sounds like it's more now, about $700 million. The stadium alone, only 20 years ago, cost about $450. And now you're going to pump $700 more million into it about 20 years later. On one side, I understand you want to keep something nice that way for the next 20 years, no doubt about it. But if I'm correct, this was already a publicly financed facility. Now the team who's going to make more money off it needs more public money, and they're using their agreement to stay at the stadium, that it was supposed to be kept up by public money. They're really pressing the local government, the state and the county, to take care of this to meet every need that they desire. Anyway, important you know that the Brewers have kind of a money issue, public money issue going on, and they're not threatening relocation yet. But stay tuned to the rest of this report. This is a gem of a ballpark, Rob Manfred told reporters during batting practice before a Brewers game at American Family Field in late May. There's a photo of him at that press conference right there in Milwaukee in May. Quote, it's really important that the existing obligation under the lease, the Brewers lease, be funded so that this great ballpark is maintained on a regular basis. Little pressure there. Hey, the agreement we made, you guys are supposed to take care of it. We need your money. It needs to be done in a timely way. So not only do we need your public money, we need it soon. We need to fix up this stadium. Right? So it still doesn't make sense why the Brewers owner is part of the A's relocation process. Hang on here. Manfred added that there is, quote, not a scenario that is in my mind at the current moment, end quote, that the Brewers would leave Milwaukee. But his comments were widely seen as an ultimatum to the Southeastern Wisconsin Professional Baseball Park District. That's the public entity that owns American Family Field. It's kind of like the Joint Powers Authority of Oakland and the Coliseum. They run it, and the commissioner's putting pressure on it to make the improvements. 2 weeks later, after his trip to Milwaukee, Manfred selected Attanasio as the head of the A's relocation committee. All right, let's look back at the timeline. Let's really put this together. It wasn't an accident, one Major League Baseball source told the, quote, Dan O'Donnell show. I shouldn't have quoted the Dan O'Donnell show. That's what it's called. Quote, the commissioner wanted to give Attanasio a front row seat to how the process would play out in case he would have to go through it, said another source. So initially we were like, does this have something to do with the A's? Why was Mark Attanasio selected to really have a hand in deciding the A's fate? Why him? But in reality, maybe this is more about a favor to the Brewers organization and ownership than it is to anything about the A's. Quote, it's not like there was an ultimatum or anything, but MLB is obviously preparing for any possibility, even if it's remote, end quote, said another source, who added that MLB often asks Attanasio to serve on various committees because he's well respected among fellow owners and is willing to volunteer his time. Two things, by the way, that I can appreciate. And so as much as people, and maybe that's the point of this video, people wanted to question Attanasio. Is there something sinister going on here? His relationship to the A's, why him? Because he needs public money. Maybe this is more, like I said, as a favor to the Brewers than anything else. Here's my takeaways, by the way, about the committee in general, not just Attanasio leading it and there's a specific reason why he's the head of it. This committee should and likely will go into way more specific, deep details about the relocation application than the rest of the owners will. I imagine some of them will want to do their due diligence of understanding what this application says. I mean, look, they've got a lot invested in their team, and one other team is part of like a link in a chain. And if there's a weak link, it could have some ramifications to the rest of baseball. Other owners don't want one franchise or two franchises in a heap of trouble. Then you know what happens. Baseball's got to come in and buy a team like they did with the Expos before they move them to Washington, D.C. So again, I think the owners individually will go into detail, but this committee should really go over every single page. This committee will make that recommendation to Manfred, his staff, and the owners. And I just think there's always a reason of even why the Royals ownership was involved here, why the Phillies ownership is involved here. And this video is not here to give you all the answers to that. If I had it, I would tell you. But I think it's up to us to understand that it's not like names were pulled out of a hat here. If you're thinking that, I guarantee you're way off. And like I said, this is probably more about the Brewers situation, that this didn't happen by chance, than the A's situation. But Kansas City, like Milwaukee, also wants and needs something. The Royals have not one, but two proposed ballparks right now that would get them out of Kauffman Stadium. So as much as I just spelled out a whole story with the Brewers side of this, it seems like the Phillies are the only ones without a rooting interest. They don't want anything that I know of a ballpark or a public subsidy. But the Royals and the Brewers definitely do. So not by mistake. Seems like it fits the bill for this situation. Hey, you made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below since you did. And also don't forget, subscribe to the channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.